It's a real honor. I mean, I'm humbled and extremely proud. And when Mark Scharf called me and asked me if I'd come in, I said absolutely. I'm proud to have lived in Elgin and get started in Elgin, and I think the tradition and all the legacy that it has here in sports, it's just unbelievable.
Talking about legacy, you are it, young man. You go from Elgin High, and then 10 years later, you are the youngest NBA general manager ever.
And now I was one of the oldest, so a lot of time.
It's a great record.
A lot of time in between. You know, I've been very fortunate, very lucky, and a lot of the right place at the right time. And I think the thing that is most interesting for me looking back is not just the foundation I got from Elgin, but when I got into the league, it was a mom and pop type of industry. So I got to see it grow from a mom and pop industry to this multi-billion industry where you know the negatives of that, we have lockouts and we have strikes and we have all of those things. But it's really interesting, all the stuff I've learned along the way, and to see the growth that professional sports has had and be a small part of it.
Well, you were a really big part of it. You're really, when you're a Dallas Maverick GM, you're putting together the Mavericks in that 79-80ish season, and that's the Bird Magic year that kind of brings us to the modern day.
You know, it's really funny because when I do a talk radio show or a television show, they'll say to me, you know, if you look back on your career in professional basketball, what teams or what moments seem to be the most compelling? And invariably, and I've had success with a lot of clubs, all the teams I've been with at one time or another won 50 games, but the Dallas Maverick teams to me are special to my heart. I mean, we went from an expansion team with the worst record in the league, and 6-7 years later we were challenging the Lakers for the championship. Unfortunately, you know, I joke with Jerry West all the time, we couldn't deliver the knockout punch to them to get to the finals, but it was very, very special those years in Dallas. Not just growing up with him, but learning the business along the way. And I think if I hadn't have had that experience there, I never would have had the longevity that I have had in the league.
Explain to us, after Elgin High, of course you went Northwestern. You also went to Ohio University. Is that right?
Yes, and it's real interesting. I mean, the route I took, as I said, it was a mom and pop type industry. And when the season, when I graduated from Northwestern, the season was over, I was thinking, well, I'm going to try to work on in a pro team or do something. I read this program in the athletic director's office about Ohio University and their sports administration program. It was a master's program. It was the only school in the country that had that in their curriculum. Nowadays, you have it all over, which is great. And I had won an NCAA postgraduate scholarship for basketball. And sure enough, in the summer, the Bucks, of all teams, had called me, a guy by the name of Bill Gardner, who's passed away, asked me if I wanted to come to their training camp. And I called Kansas City and checked on my scholarship, and I would forfeit the scholarship if I tried out and didn't make it. Yeah. And so I kind of, you know, that's back in the days when the players had summer jobs and things. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to get this degree and then try. And because of that segue of talking to the Bucks to a free agency, Wayne Embry and I had some dialogue, and that's how I got in to do an internship, because I had to do an internship to graduate. And so Wayne called me, and we worked out that I wasn't going to try out, I was going to do my internship, and that led to a full-time position. And if there was anybody who was probably the biggest mentor in my life as far as professional sports, you know, it's Wayne. I talked to him, in fact, talked to him twice today. You know, so, you know, from Northwestern to Ohio to the league, you know, I owe a gratitude of thanks to so many people.
Wonderful. Wayne was also a great center. He was the widest shoulders until Wesley Unseld arrived.
Wayne the Wall. And I still call him that, the big fella. And you know, but Wayne was the first African-American general manager of all professional sports. So what a person to learn from, who, you know, basically took me on as a son, more or less.
In your case, as a son. Now, let's remind everybody your greatest Elgin High moment. Can you think back?
You know, I think, and it relates to Elgin, because I'd say if I look back, you know, back in those times, sophomores weren't brought up to play the varsity very often, and it was like the middle of the year, and Chesborough had the coach had come to me and brought me up for the varsity, and they hadn't done that in like 10 years or something. And our first game was Larkin.
Oh my!
And you know, the Elgin Larkin game back then, and I'm going to say this tonight. You know, it wasn't a game; it was an event. I mean, it was an event, and you prepare for the week. I mean, the whole city did, and getting a ticket was impossible. And so that was my first game, and I scored 20 points at Larkin, and we won. And I don't remember a lot of things in my life of accomplishments. I remember that, and then the next night we played Wheaton, and I was terrible. So you get to go from the high and the low in a weekend. But it was that was a special Elgin moment for me.
That's in the earliest days of the rivalry. I believe that would be the 66, 67 season.
It was. Well, actually, it was the 66, 67. I was a sophomore, and it was at Larkin the first game, and it was really probably a special moment.
Oh, great. Hey, and you've been involved with so many teams. Currently, what are you doing?
You know what? My contract expired with Atlanta this year in June, and I really had told them prior to when I signed a 4-year deal. I said, that 4th year, after that, it may be time for me to take a step back. And so I had talked to them. We had an understanding that if they couldn't find a general manager that they were comfortable with, I would stay on. And if they did, then I was going to kind of slow down a little bit. And they hired Danny Ferry, and they're very comfortable with it. And Danny went out of his way to pressure me to stay on as a consultant or a senior advisor. So I'm still with the Hawks, but I don't have to spend as much time down there, and I'm going to be spending more time on the West Coast. My wife managed the house in Seattle. When I took the gig 4 years ago, she said, "No more. I'm not traveling anymore." So it works out good because I'm still working with the Hawks in a senior advisory capacity of basketball ops, and I'll be living more at home. I'll still be down in Atlanta some, but it's a gradual slowdown or transition.
Well, your career has been great. We're so honored to have you here tonight.
Well, it's a real pleasure. I appreciate the interview.